interesting times. Today's stories. 4 dead, 3 missing after Myanmar dam overflow. Australia unveils starfish killing robot to protect barrier reef. Coca-Cola buys coffee chain Costa for $5.1 billion. Trudeau will only sign NAFTA deal that's good for Canada. Court blocks construction of Canada pipeline to Pacific. Dominican Republic names ambassador to China. Plus, the Richmond night market heats up the summer in Vancouver. This is Eagle News Canada, bringing you stories from around the globe. I am Kara Kabusao. A ministry official confirmed that the floods from a dam breach in central Myanmar has left 4 people dead and 3 missing. The first casualties reported 2 days after a portion of the levee collapsed from heavy monsoon rains. A director at the Ministry of Social Welfare, Relief and Resettlement said that the deceased were 3 men and 1 woman. Phew Leileiton said that according to the information we got as of this morning, 4 people were killed and 3 went missing during the floods. A large swath of central Bago region has been inundated after the Suar Chung Dam spillway collapsed, causing a deluge of water to drain out of the levee into surrounding villages and farmland. The intense flood waters devastated the rural Fatland region, where more than 60,000 people reside primarily in easily damaged bamboo and wooden houses. While some were able to wade through chest-deep water on the first day to get to higher ground, many families are still stranded as search and rescue efforts led by the military attempted to reach them. Phew Leileiton confirmed that more than 36,000 people were displaced and residing in 68 temporary shelter camps set up in monasteries on higher ground. This dam breach comes just weeks after a Laos dam collapse, causing at least 35 people to be killed while scores remain missing. Southeast Asia's monsoon season often brings heavy rains to the region, causing widespread flash floods in Myanmar that recently forced 150,000 people to flee their homes. A robot submarine able to hunt and kill the predatory crown of thorns starfish devastating the Great Barrier Reef was unveiled by Australian researchers. Scientists at Queensland University of Technology, or QUT, said the robot, named the RangerBot, and developed with a grant from Google, would serve as a robo-reef protector for the vast World Heritage Site of Australia's northeastern coast. The RangerBot has an 8-hour battery life and computer vision capabilities, allowing it to monitor and map reef areas at scales not previously possible. Matthew Dunbabin, the QUT professor who unveiled the submarine, said that the RangerBot is the world's first underwater robotic system designed specifically for coral reef environments, using only robot vision for real-time navigation, obstacle avoidance, and complex science missions. The multifunction ocean drone can monitor a wide range of issues facing coral reefs, including coral bleaching, water quality, pest species, pollution, and siltation. Software will also enable the bot to detect crown of thorns starfish, which eat coral, and instigate an injection which is fatal to the predators, he said. Adding to the injection is harmless for other reef creatures. The starfish have proliferated in recent times due to pollution and agricultural runoff. The Great Barrier Reef, about the size of Japan or Italy, is reeling from 2 straight years of bleaching as sea temperatures rise because of climate change. Experts have warned that 2,300 kilometers or 1,400 miles long area could have suffered irreparable damage due to the combined effects of bleaching, damage from agricultural runoff, and the impact of the crown of thorns starfish. Coca-Cola said it had agreed to buy international coffee chain Costa from its UK owner Whitbread in a deal that gives the beverages behemoth its first global coffee brand. Coca-Cola Chief Executive James Quincy said that in a joint statement that hot beverages is one of the few remaining segments of the total beverage landscape where Coca-Cola does not have a global brand. Costa gives access to this market through a strong coffee platform. The deal for £3.9 billion or $5.1 billion comes as a consumer demand for conventional carbonated drinks shrinks in the US and other markets owing to health and obesity concerns. Earlier in August, Coca-Cola's arch rival PepsiCo struck a deal to buy Israeli company SodaStream for $3.2 billion in a pitch to consumers concerned about mounting waste from soda cans and plastics in landfills worldwide. SodaStream makes machines that carbonate home tap water. Coca-Cola's purchase adds to its Georgia coffee brand in Japan and the U.S. Group's coffee products in other countries. Costa also provides Coca-Cola with strong expertise across the coffee supply chain, including sourcing, vending, and distribution. Coca-Cola hopes to close the deal in the first half of next year, subject to shareholder and regulatory approvals. The announcement comes 3 days after Nespresso maker Nestle said it sealed a deal to market the products of US against giant Starbucks around the world, outside of its cafes. Following pressure from activist shareholders, Whitbread revealed in April that it would spin off Costa, leaving it to concentrate on its hotel chain, Premier Inn. Whitbread was forced to act after U.S. group Elliott became its biggest shareholder with a 6% stake. Up next, Trudeau will only sign NAFTA deal that's good for Canada. Court blocks construction of Canada pipeline to Pacific. Dominican Republic names ambassador to China. Eagle News Canada will return in a moment. Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News Canada. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said he would sign a revamped continental trade agreement that is good for Canada after the United States and Mexico hammered out their differences to reach a tentative accord.
Nous sommes présentement dans le processus de renégociation de l'ALENA avec nos voisins du Sud, ça vous ne saviez peut-être pas, là, mais... Et nous sommes déterminés à conclure un accord équitable pour toutes les parties concernées. Un accord moderne, à l'image de nos valeurs et à la hauteur de nos ambitions, qui profitera non seulement aux entreprises de chez nous, mais aussi aux travailleurs de la classe moyenne. Nous allons travailler de bonne foi, de façon constructive, présente, mais nous n'allons signer qu'un accord qui est bon pour le Canada, bon pour les Canadiens de la classe moyenne.
He heralded very positive progress on auto trade provisions reached by the US and Mexico, but flatly rejected US demands to dismantle or greatly open up the access to Canada's supply-managed dairy market in a revamped North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. The Canadian government effectively sets production quotas and the price of milk, which ends up costing consumers a bit more but provides farmers with a stable income. The system has been in place since the 1970s and has survived several attempts to undo it, as well as the prohibitive tariffs that limit foreign imports.
My position on defending supply management has not changed. We will defend supply management. We have been encouraged by the progress made by our NAFTA partners over the past weeks. This was an important step to moving forward on renegotiating and improving NAFTA.
As he spoke, Canadian Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland arrived in Washington to rejoin trilateral trade negotiations after interrupting a trip to France, Germany, and Ukraine. Trudeau's senior political advisor, Gerald Butts, was also in Washington for the talks. After months of intense negotiations, the United States and Mexico announced an agreement Monday on a thorough overhaul of the 25-year-old Free Trade Pact, but President Donald Trump suggested he could cut Ottawa out.
documents and a lot of text to dig into in terms of what has been worked on by Mexico and the United States. There's been some very positive progress, particularly on autos, and we're glad to be engaging as we have been.
Mexico's President Enrique Peña Nieto and President-elect Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador both said NAFTA should remain a trilateral pact. A Canadian court quashed the government's approval of the Trans Mountain Pipeline to Pacific, siding with Indigenous people worried that increased tanker traffic will harm whales along the coast. In its decision, the Federal Court of Appeals said Ottawa, which reached a deal in May to buy the pipeline from Kinder Morgan for 4.5 billion Canadian dollars, must take a second look at the project, taking greater care to consult with Indigenous tribes and consider marine traffic impacts.
The NAFTA negotiation is, as I think you all know, an extremely important negotiation for Canada, and we are focusing on getting a good deal for Canada, a win-win-win outcome for the long term. We have our eyes resolutely on that prize, and we are not focusing on or responding to any other factors.
The pipeline was to move 890,000 barrels of oil a day from landlocked Alberta province to the Pacific coast for export overseas, replacing a smaller crumbling conduit built in 1953. The project aimed to help ease Canada's reliance on the U.S. market and get a better price for its crude oil. Ottawa approved the project in 2016 after an environmental review, saying it was in the national interest. But it has continued to face stiff opposition from Indigenous tribes, environmental activists, and local governments along the 1,150-kilometer route. Indigenous groups on whose traditional lands the pipeline crosses have expressed concerns that the increase in shipping will impede the recovery of killer whale populations in the area. The court concluded that the National Energy Board made a critical error in not considering marine shipping impacts, leading to unacceptable deficiencies in its recommendations to the government to greenlight the project. It also said the government failed in its constitutional duty to engage dialogue meaningfully and grapple with the real concerns of the Indigenous applicants so as to explore possible accommodation of those concerns. Kinder Morgan shareholders, meanwhile, reportedly voted overwhelmingly to approve the pipeline sale to federal government. The company was not immediately available to confirm the vote result. Ottawa's purchase of the pipeline, effectively nationalizing it, was meant to silence critics and bring a swift end to legal challenges and illegal protests at construction sites. Currently, 99% of Canada's oil is sold to the United States at a discount, and access to the Pacific coast is seen as key to diversifying the world's sixth largest oil producer's energy exports. Access to new oil markets was also key to Canada's meeting its Paris climate target because Alberta, the nation's single largest pollution emitter, agreed to take action against carbon emissions only if it gained access to new markets for its oil. But pushback, including from the British Columbia government, created political risks that led Kinder Morgan to temporarily halt its construction earlier this year.
We've moved into a very intense rhythm of the negotiations where our officials are working hard, preparing issues for some high-level ministerial decisions. Then we meet at the ministerial level, take the decisions, instruct our teams, and they move on to the next set of issues. So that's the sort of intense rhythm characteristic for this stage of the negotiations. The atmosphere is good, there is goodwill on both sides, and I'm encouraged by that.
Monroe said that at the height of the feuding that the government's purchase of the project will ensure that we're able to safely get Canadian oil resources to world markets where we can get a fair price for them. The Dominican Republic appointed its first ambassador to China after switching diplomatic ties from Taiwan in April. The envoy is Briuni Garabito Segura, who has previously served as ambassador to Colombia and Canada. Until April, the Dominican Republic was among just a handful of countries that recognized Taiwan. China and Taiwan have been ruled separately since 1949, but Beijing views the island as a renegade province awaiting reunification by force if necessary. At the time of the change, President Danilo Medina said that the Dominican Republic could not go on without having relations with the world's second largest economy. China already had a commercial office in Santo Domingo and established an embassy on May 21, although it has yet to designate an ambassador. China is the Dominican Republic's second biggest trading partner after United States. Coming up, the Richmond Night Market heats up the summer in Vancouver. Eagle News Canada will return shortly. This is Eagle News Canada. I am Cara Cabusao. Eagle News correspondents Archie Rose, Estella Dominic, and Elise Danielle show us around the Richmond Night Market, dubbed as the largest of its kind in North America, where hundreds of street-style eats await an adventurous palate. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Archie Rose, and we are here with our guest correspondents,
Estella and Elise. When in Vancouver, one of the top things to visit is the Richmond Night Market. Featuring dozens of stalls that offer international cuisine and diverse products, we're in for a long night.
Join us as we explore this must-experience attraction.
Finding parking near the venue is quite challenging, so the most convenient way to get to the Richmond Night Market is by taking the SkyTrain. Remember, your stop is Bridgeport Station. Once off the SkyTrain, you will need to walk just a few minutes to get where the action is. Don't be intimidated by the crowd. As long as you mind your own space, give way to others, fall in line, then you'll be okay. Once you get used to the overwhelming crowd, don't worry, it will only take a minute. It's time to get down to business. Food. My favorite, this giant calamari. These takoyakis are palate pleasers as well, rich and tasty. The rotator hurricane potatoes seem to be a crowd favorite, and maybe it has become mine too. Feeling like kebabs, chicken, pork, or beef? They have it all here. Even burritos, seasick burritos, because you'll never know what hungry people crave for.
How do I feed a lot of people? When they're hungry, and I make the burrito for them. Our signature dish is our #1 pork sisig, which is, it has the calamansi, the lemon, and it has all the good stuff.
These hot fish balls are spicy hot. So you chug it down with this fancy watermelon juice, served fresh, and it's rind. Then follow it up with these mocha and chocolate-covered strawberries. This foodie haven is dubbed as the largest Asian night market in North America. With dozens of food vendors serving hundreds of street-style eats, no wonder summer nights spent here are undeniably satisfying. It's like touring the globe without leaving the city.
I like it here because it's culturally diverse and it's like you're eating around the world in one place. My favorite here at the night market is the dim sum.
If you want to take a break from eating, you can also shop for some clothes, beach towels, giant pillows, and toys. But before you call it a night, you gotta make room for dessert. This mango mochi ice cream is something you want to eat over and over and over again.
From king crabs to sweet corns to freshly squeezed lemonade, the Richmond Night Market really makes Vancouver summer nights heat up. I'm Archie Rose at TV Dan.
I'm Estella Dominique. And I'm Elise Danielle.
And we are Wine with 25.
Thanks, guys. That is this week's Eagle News Canada. Join us next week for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at Eaglenews.PH and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook, Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/Eaglenews.PH. Thank you for watching. I am Kara Kabusao. I am one with 25.